Welcome to Herbie at Heart, where herbalism grows in the roots of our hearts, an intrinsic journey where we dwell on the deep and expand the narrow. Staring your favorite herbalist Tash at Avant Garden Live on Instagram, and me, Philip. You find me via Power Plants Berlin on Instagram. One plant, one show. That's the idea of this show in general, and the interview with a person who represents a part of the plant. And this month's plant and topic is a special one. It's a plant everybody knows. Everybody walks by and often notices, especially while blooming. A scent and taste we all have tried and easily to recognize. A medicine that is often forgotten and is so common that it's just a part of everyday life. We find it in Turkish delight or as tea, as jam inside our Berliners here at Fasching time. Nobody's celebrating that anyway. Or as a childish trick to make you feel itchy. It's full of vitamins and rich in flavonoids. Today's plant is nobody else than the wild rose, or the dog rose, as you call it also. And we're going to talk about it. It fruits today. We're talking about rosehips.
Rosehips. So I guess everyone has probably got
those rosehips of yours.
Rosy hips. Oh, rosy hips. I guess everyone's asking, why have we chosen this plant in the dead of winter on these cold nights? Well, at least in the Northern Hemisphere.
That's why.
And actually, we're going to talk not so much about the rose per se. We're going to really concentrate on the rosehip itself. And we chose it because it's like this flash of red in the nature in winter when you go out. If you're going in the forests, it will be one plant that you will notice because it will have a bit of colour in, especially when it's in the snow. When you're walking through the snow, then it's really bright, reddy, kind of little balls of blood almost, it looks like, actually. Yeah. I was in France recently in the snow and I found them and it looked like, little drops of blood, which I've just realised right now.
Yeah, and they're everywhere.
Yeah.
All over Europe. Wherever you go, you're going to find them.
Yeah, so we're going to dive deep into this. We've got a really great interview today, this time actually with a herbalist, so that's very exciting. And we're going to start off with a song to get us in the mood. The Bees, Winter Rose, the Nicholas Jar remix, coming your way.
That was quite slow. No, that was, of course, Nicholas Shah in the remix, The Bees, Winter Rose. And that's what we're going to talk about, the winter rose now, the wild rose, the rose hips, the fruits of the Rosa canina. This beautiful, what do you call it? It's not a tree. What's the English word for
bush.
That? For bush? It's just bush?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, rose bush. We call it rose bush.
Rose bush, okay. Yeah. This beautiful bush has many mysteries that it's surrounded by. Like during my research, I dug up in some old magic books about it. There's this beautiful book of the German Aberglauben that is like basically explaining all the German words and where they're coming from and everything. And they gave me quite a lot of information of when it was used by folk magic and how it was used in like the last 5 to 10 centuries, which was quite interesting. So it has a very magical touch on it. It's supposed to be like this fairy tree also. Everything that has thorns on it has a little bit of a magic thing on it. They use thorns to repel magic. So you could protect, use the wood that it has to protect yourself from enchantments. Especially they used it in stables for livestock, which used to be like a very big thing in a few hundred years ago.
Because protect the horses.
And the cows.
Ah.
Because witches were known for killing your animals. And that is quite fucked up because you're living off the milk, you're living off the eggs, you're living off the meat and so on.
And also stealing the milk and butter.
Yeah. Yeah. Them witches. Them evil witches. Yeah. So a lot of times when animals got sick, it was used to believe that witches made them sick, and sometimes probably they did. And to prevent your cows from getting sick, you would use this thorny wood and hang it on the stables, as well as, of course, like all the other classic charms that we have talked about, like the Angelica, the Hypericum, and Artemisia. You know, like
Just imagine the stable like so full of these plants.
Yeah.
You can't get in anymore.
No, you can't get in, but nobody can get out also. Yeah, and of course, eating these plants would have been a good idea also. They used it for protective rituals and this kind of thingy. They made rods out of it, protection against curses and bewitchment and any kind of thing. Also, it was idea to use it against lightning, because in the idea of the color red, there's the idea of Thor, the Dona. So it can be connected to the Dona, the Thor, the
the weather, you mean?
Yeah,
like the
the
Donna
thunder.
Better. Yeah,
Thunder,
okay,
yeah.
the
And
thunder.
it comes
weather.
like from the Thor, the god. So whenever there was lightning coming down, you used it as a protection to put it on the house, so your house is not burning down. Because all fruits that are having the color red, they were connected to this god Thor, at least here in the Celtic or Germanic tradition. So you could use it in order to humble the storm a little bit. That was a little bit the idea. Of course, there has been a lot of ways how they used it in a medical sense, traditional medicine, but we're going to talk a little bit about that later. So, yeah.
I mean, also they even have found it in prehistoric, like as far back as humanity. They've found pieces of how they discover it. I'm not in that area, but rose hips have been found, or like parts of the rose they know has been used since forever for whatever it was used for. But so it's quite an old.
So they found rose hips in like old.
Yeah, the information I found it wasn't specific, but like before prehistoric times, really, since as far back as they've found humans, they've found traces of.
Yeah, makes sense.
Some form of the rose family, if it's the exact rose itself. But rose hips also particular.
Okay.
I think they used to use it a lot more.
I mean, there is quite a few different kind of bushes regarding the Rosa canina family, and you really have to know them to understand the differences. But in general, all of them they're very similar in the way to use them. They all have this flavonoid, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory usage. So if you're out, listener, picking them, I think there's no need to differentiate between the different
No,
species.
all of them can be used. Yeah, they're such an I think it was funny when I was just researching. I've worked with the rose for a long time and rose hips, but of course it's always good to refresh your mind and look at it again from different angles. And it's such an understated plant. Like even in herbalism, I found that it's such a great general thing that everyone could be taking, particularly the rose hips.
It's everywhere,
Yeah, and it's everywhere. It's to find everywhere. And it's food, nutrition.
You can even pick it at Tempelhofer. It's rich in vitamins, vitamin C especially, like super, super rich.
Yeah, and it's like an antioxidant. It's one of the most highest antioxidant berry. They've done some research on it, and it's just so... I mean, antioxidant vitamin C alone is just... we need it for so many things in our system.
Hear our frustration. Just pick the rose
can you hear it? Go and get them. They're out now.
You, man? Okay. Okay, before we dig in the pharmacology, maybe one thing that I found interesting also was like in the way they used it is to put your disease inside the bush. That was like a common thing in medieval times, that you find like a tree that has a certain kind of power, and they often used like rosehips, or they used elderflower, because elderflower was connected to the Holle, Frau Holle, the underworld, and the roots were going down. And also the rose has a strong connection to death. Like if you dream of a rose, it was an oracle to be meant like you're going to die. If a sick person is dreaming of a rose, it was like death sentence, basically. And many of us, they don't connect the rose, the classic rose that we're growing in our garden, to this bush, right? Because we see the rosehips and we almost never watch them blooming. But of course, it has this very beautiful 8-layered pattern of a classic rose inside, like this wild rose, very, very beautiful. So what you would have been doing, I don't know, you would go to this bush, you basically crouch under it and like leave your disease under that bush. And normally you would do it like a tree that was connected to death, like elderflower or the rosehips, and or the rose bush. And that is a sign for a very strong connection. That tree has like a strong energy, because not a lot of trees or bushes are connected to the underworld. It means they have like they gave them, it had a big significance that is not to be underestimated. Yeah.
Very interesting. No, I find it very interesting. That's what's so cool when we do this show, is we can research these things which you normally never have time to do.
No, really.
And you actually learn through this mythology and through these kind of magical aspects, you can learn how to use it very practically.
Yeah.
Like you can learn it to protect someone who's maybe possibly feeling a little bit like they're thinning, or they're not being able to protecting themselves from the outside world. And you can use actually the rose or any thorny plants emotionally like that for setting boundaries. If maybe you're a people pleaser, or you're not very good at saying no, you could work with the rosehip or with the rose itself, and to help sort of bring those boundaries up, to give you a little bit, it doesn't sound so nice, but a bit of a thorny layer, so you can protect yourself, so people can't come into your space. So it's in that way, it's a beautiful plant. It's very gentle, but it's also quite powerful.
Yeah.
So I can understand all this rich history that it has in mythology and folk medicine, folk history.
Yeah, it's great. It's a good thing to be thorny from time to time, especially if you are not able to do that at all.
Maybe not me, but
you wouldn't need that. No. Yeah, and we all know it. That was a little trick, maybe. Like we all know it. The little hair it has inside the rosehips. If you open them up, it's like this beautiful red, little bloody-looking berry fruit. And if you open it out, it has these seeds inside, right? And then it's full with these little tiny hairs. And do you remember like putting it as a child? Yeah.
Putting it down the backs.
Yeah.
And even if you eat them, you can actually get itchy bums, because if you accidentally eat them, because it goes
pooping
through.
it out.
Yeah, I've heard this. I mean, I don't eat them because I think it would probably irritate my throat. I'm always a bit worried about that. I don't eat the furry bits. But yeah. Okay. There has been reports of that, so watch out. Watch out with those little hairs. You can get quite irritated in the throat and the mouth if you eat the actual little inner hairs.
One recommendation that I'm doing, because I did all the work of picking them, opening them,
it's very meditative, taking out the seeds.
Taking out the seeds, removing the hair, like scraping it off, and then letting it dry over a while, and all those kind of things. And I did this once, so I had like a bunch of rosehips, and when this was done, I was like, I'm not going to do this again. The next time I just threw it all into a mixer and let that dry. And that worked quite well. So it's not itchy anymore. I even used the seeds inside the mixer and I like really mixed it down, and I just powderized it.
Yeah. When it's powder, it kind of goes away. It must break like the tiny little hairs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's actually a really good trick for that. When you get into more, it's not quite now, but more like February, maybe even March, April, there'll be all the hard ones will be on the bush. You know, they kind of go hard at some point.
Yes.
And then you pick them and powder them. Yeah, it was something I read about ages ago, and I was like, oh, I never would have thought of that. It's quite a good idea. So it's sort of the plant has already naturally dried them, and so it's connected to the plant the whole time. So I thought it felt quite good, that idea for me. Felt quite intuitive.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to do your technique of taking out the seeds, they need to be quite hard because when they're too squishy, you lose like half the thing.
Yeah, if you want to do that, you should do it before winter because they get more squishy after they have once frozen. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and we've had some frost here already.
Yeah, but you say that you're gonna that the vitamin C tends to maximize after it has frozen like a few times.
Well, it just breaks the cell walls a little bit once it's broken, and the flavor gets better, and it can release things when cell walls and stuff can come out.
Yeah, but if you want to do that and it's not the right time, you can also just collect them in like autumn when they're already there and just put them in the freezer for a few days. It's a possibility.
Yeah, and then take them out. I sometimes forget them, and then they freeze hard, which isn't so great.
Yeah,
but that's a possibility that you can do.
Yeah, and it's nice. And right now, even if you're going outside, you find them. You find them in different spots. You can basically find them everywhere, all over Europe. I don't think I recall any place in Europe where I have not seen any.
No,
Rosehips.
I mean, just now when I was in Crete, they were like everywhere. I found heaps of them, and they were really abundant. So they really. In Australia, we don't find them as much, probably in the south, but they are there as well. But they're more of I always think of European, kind of UK, when I think of wild roses and rosehips. Always come to mind.
So every month when we are talking about the plant, we're preparing in a way that we're taking the plant also. So do you have any experience what happened to you?
I do. I also didn't take it as much as I should. It's been quite a full month. I've had family here and that, which is always, messy and fun and all those things. But I did the last week, and what was quite interesting is I had some emotional disturbances going on. And what I really found after taking it for 2 days is how much it calmed my system. It really brought me into a state of balance and safety and quietened my heart that I felt like I could deal with the situation. And it also brought me out of the situation, that I could look at it with a little bit more logic and not sit in kind of the sometimes emotions, you kind of sit in them too long, and then it's like you need to stand out of them for a moment to reflect on them. And it really helped me to do that. Mm-hmm. And I feel like also I'm getting quite nourished from it. Mm-hmm. It's quite interesting. Like I feel like it's doing something to my system that's giving me power on a general way of feeling very strong, almost this boundary, but then being able to be very sensitive and looking at my emotions and kind of holding them. It's quite an interesting experience that I've noticed the last few days. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I've worked with rose many years. When I had limes, I actually used a lot of rosehip, and I used it because the limes really can attract the collagen in your joints, and your joints can get really, really attacked by limes, by the borreliose. And I was suggested by someone that you take collagen, but I wasn't willing to take animal collagen. And then I did a whole lot of research on it. I mean, this is many years ago. And rosehip, it has a lot in there, or is really good for this. And I took a lot of it, and I was really astounded at the support that it felt on my joints, on one particular joint that was really affected.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, yeah, that's kind of my experience personally with the rosehip. I mean, you were taking the vinegar.
I was taking the vinegar. I didn't take so much since I'm on a diet this month and doing a little detox after New Year's. And I didn't want to mix up all my herbal mix that I have prepared, because I'm doing like parasiting and like gut restoration month, basically. But I did take the vinegar, and it felt great. I love the taste. It felt great on my gut. It felt great for digestion, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, in general, it would have been said, no, it would totally fit the whole program of for detox, especially if you're gonna start like a gut restoration or something like this. It's always a recommendation of mine to have like a anti-inflammatory time before you start restoration, like taking probiotics or something like this. Because we all of us, we're taking in so much inflammatory things that we have a lot of inflammation in our body if you're not being like super conscious about it all the time. And Rosehips, they're amazing for that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think people don't think about that with the rosehip, actually.
No, because it's too common. It's like so
Yeah.
common that you wouldn't think it's actually great medicine. And like, yeah, it's the classic theme. Yeah. And
Classic humans.
yeah, it has these polyphenols, galactolipids, like they're very potent anti-inflammatory activity. It is said and known to reduce the C-reactive protein, which is like if you get like a blood report and your CRP is high, it means you have like inflammatory action. So it actually is proven that taking this plant in like as a plant, as tea, as tincture, even eating it, making it part of your diet, it has an anti-inflammatory effect on your body.
Yeah, it seems it's a bit of a really good general all-rounder for our whole system. You know, it works on the circulatory system, on the musculoskeletal, even on the skin, on our mucous membranes. And it's quite a soft. You can really give it. They used to, I read an article about giving it to even small babies, the syrup.
Yeah.
Like if they're needing nutrition, like to starving children, you could give, okay, here we don't have it, but for children who are undernourished, that you could give these syrups to them just because of the content in it. Like you said, the fats, the vitamin C, even the antioxidant, the anti-inflammatory, which would be happening when you're not eating well. And so it's for young and old, healthy and ill. Everyone can do it.
Yeah. Just have it as a tea. Of course, like don't drink it for 2 months in a row. If you want to drink it as a cure, do a maximum of like 6 weeks and stop for a month or so, or longer even. It's always like not wise to just ingest like the same thing over and over again. But yeah, you can drink it on a regular basis. Have some hagebutter, so have some rosehip in your tea mix. Or like I think a lot of old people still do this.
I think so. And traditionally they still make the jams and the...
Yes, in Franconia we have this beautiful jam.
And in the UK they do it a lot as well.
Yeah. One thing that I found it amazing to use is that I want to mention is arthritis. Like a lot of people suffer from rheumatic disease, and coming back to the anti-inflammatory activity that this plant has, it is just amazing, really amazing for people with like arthritis, rheumatic arthritis. It is inflammation in the joints, and this plant is just the big time helper. So if you want to reduce all these inflammations, choose rosehip.
Yeah, add it to your diet.
Yeah.
Because the powder you can just really put on everything. I mean, not on everything, but you could put it on everything, but just flavor-wise, you know, and it's got a great flavor to it as well, like on mueslis. I've even put it on salty things, like a little bit on eggs and stuff, and it gives it quite an interesting flavor in like chili sauces. You know, you can add it in all these...
very easily.
Interesting foods.
Yeah. And the powder is what they have used in clinical studies also. There's a clinical studies, we can provide them in the show notes for you, from 2015, where they reported significant pain reduction with osteoarthritis patients. And it improved like flexibility of joints. And one big thing is that the NSAR, like non-steroid antirheumatics, like ibuprofen, this kind of thing, paracetamol, that you won't need as much anymore because it's just reducing the pain. So it's amazing for your liver also because you reduce the medicines that you have to take in. Yeah.
I mean, we could talk for hours about the rosehip.
I'm convinced.
Are you convinced is the question.
Okay, how about we play another song now?
Yep, sounds
and
good.
And then we dig right into the interview with Clare.
I'm up for that.
Okay, so of course, we're gonna play a little bit of Rose today. La vie en rose. La vie en rose by Grace Jones.
Welcome back. Thank you to the lovely Grace Jones, as always. So we're going to dive into our interview now with the lovely Clare. We always, of course, have a connection between why we're choosing the person we're choosing to interview and the plant that we're talking about. And we, or should I say maybe more I, there's quite a rich history in Scotland. I mean, everywhere, but I found quite a lot of rich history in Scotland itself, that it's been used, the rosehip, also medicinally for quite a long time. So we wanted to choose a Scottish herbalist who I've known for a long time, and she does great work. Clare Holohan is a qualified medical herbalist, forager, massage therapist, and clinical aromatherapist with over 10 years of experience, based in the West Highlands of Scotland. She offers herbal healthcare, foraging workshops, and holistic therapies in person and online.
Mm-hmm.
Clare is also the co-founder of Scotland's Wild Medicine, a great book which I actually own. Go out and get one, which explores the healing power of native plants. She practices in Lochaline and at the Loch Harbour Complementary Health Clinic in Fort William, focusing on helping people reconnect with nature for improved health and well-being. If you want to search her, you can find her on westhighlandherbal.com.uk. So, welcome, Clare.
Thanks so much for having me.
Pleasure. Could you share a little bit about yourself and your journey and how you found your path working with plants?
Yeah, sure. So I am a medical herbalist and foraging teacher in the West Highlands of Scotland. And I also ran a 6-acre smallholding with my ex-partner for about 10 years. So I have a big herb garden. I grow a lot of my own medicines, and I forage and make a lot of tinctures and dry herbs for teas, and generally get witchy in the kitchen, make a lot of extracts and things. So I first got into herbal medicine really from a love of food. When I first left school, I trained as a chef, and I've always loved just pottering about in the kitchen and creating like wonderful things to eat, and that kind of really transformed into a love of using plants as food and medicine. So it kind of became this bit of a crossover. And after kind of working in the catering hospitality industry for 3 or 4 years, I realized that it was not for me as a full-time profession, and it's quite a stressful, hierarchical, very male-dominated environment. And then I think things have changed in those 20 years that have passed. But I just realised that I wanted to do something different. So I decided to do the herbal medicine degree back at the Scottish School of Herbal Medicine when that was still running. And the rest is history.
Rest is planty history.
Indeed.
When I guess I should say, think of rosehips, I often think of the UK, Scotland. I always somehow associate these this plant and especially Scottish, and it seems to have quite a long cultural history in it. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Is that still within the culture? Do you find that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly in the far northern hemisphere, roses and wild roses in particular, the fruit is something that's kind of pretty hardy and widely available as a foraged food. So it probably does have quite a long history. I mean, when I teach foraging courses or I talk to people about rosehips, it is one of the plants that people, especially older people, do remember gathering as children, or You know, a lot of kind of older folk say, "Oh, I remember as a child I was given rosehip syrup, you know, as a kind of food supplement, because it was actually apparently the first plant that vitamin C was discovered in. So then it was used really widely as a syrup and a supplement, particularly during the war. So and afterwards. So a lot of older people can kind of remember growing up on rosehip syrup. So possibly that. I mean, if you look at kind of Scandinavia, they have quite a rich culture and tradition of preparing rosehips for food as well. So they have kind of soups and things that they make with rosehips and marmalades and things like that. So yeah, I think it is that kind of far northern hardy kind of plant.
Mm. And do you use rosehips in your work now? And if you do, how you incorporate them in your work?
Yeah, I do. I do use rosehips. So I use them in my herbal medicine practice for my patients. I also use them as a kind of foraged food as well. So in practice, obviously, they are of course very high in vitamin C, and they're very helpful for things like cartilage regeneration and repair, connective tissue healing. So I will use them for, you know, joint problems. They're also, of course, with the vitamin C content and the flavonoids, they're excellent for proper functioning of the immune system. So I think that's a great use, like warding off coughs and colds. And I use the seed oil itself as well for kind of scar tissue repair and healing, which is interesting because rose obviously has this kind of association of you know, the heart and love, and I kind of feel like the plant as a whole has this association with loving yourself, like healing yourself and showing yourself that love. So so I'll use it energetically in that kind of sense. From a food perspective, um I do sometimes make syrups. It makes a really nice wine, rosehip. I also, this is a bit of a labor of love, but if you're into foraging and, you know, you kind of end up picking small amounts of things and, you know, having to work pretty hard to get them processed. But you can actually cut the rosehips, scoop out the seeds, which contain, on the surface, they have these very fine hairs that are quite irritating. So you have to remove them and then kind of rinse them out. And you can cook them down just with a little bit of water to make almost like a paste. And then that can be used almost like a tomato puree, like as a base for soups or stews, or just to add that kind of richness and slightly sour taste to soups and stews and dishes in general. So yeah, that's, and also it does make a really nice infused vinegar as well. So just infusing the hips whole into like an apple cider vinegar, make your salad dressings a bit more exciting, or take that in a bit of hot water in the morning as a little immune tonic. Those are some of the ways that I would use them in practice.
Yeah, having just using Tash's rosehip apple cider for myself. Yeah, it's really, really nice actually. Maybe you want to elaborate a little bit on like because I find it quite interesting that you also, for example, use the seeds, and like what parts of the tree or of the plant do you use in general, and how do you use them, and you can be detailed if you want, like.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I suppose when we think of the rose plant, often the first thing that people think about would be the flowers. So, gosh, I feel like you could do a whole day on rose flower. You know, it's such a complex and incredible medicine and food as well. Um, yeah, I don't even know where to start with the flowers. Probably with that association with the heart, with love. I use it as, you know, for helping people come to terms with grief. Some of the research suggests that the flowers have antimicrobial properties. I'll use it in teas. I use it as tincture. You can distill it. You can make desserts, things like Turkish delight with it. Again, you can infuse the flowers into vinegar, and that actually makes a very lovely wash for very hot skin conditions like sunburn or inflammatory itchy skin. And yeah, so then obviously the hips themselves I would use mostly as a tincture or like I say, as a food. The seeds, it tends to be the pressed oil that is used medicinally, so that would be a product that I would tend to buy in rather than kind of processing myself. And obviously, there's the issue with the tiny hairs around the seeds as well, so it makes processing quite a tricky business. That takes me back actually to childhood adventures, where in Glasgow, as a child growing up, we used to play this game called Itchy Coos, where you would drop a rosehip down somebody's back and then smash it with your hand so that they ended up with lots of itchy skin down their back, which is, true Scottish game that we used to play as children. What else can I say about the rose plant in general? Yeah, the rose family herbs obviously very rich in tannins. They're known for their kind of drying and toning properties. So, again, connective tissue repair, healing the mucous membranes, excessive bleeding, heavy periods, digestive tract bleeding. I feel like rose is almost one of those kind of cure-all plants that's got so much to give. And yeah, I do use the rose a lot in different forms in my practice.
I think probably an interesting thing for the audience would be, is there anything that you would not use it for, like contraindicated for a particular patient or a particular ailment, or where people might need to be slightly wary of using the plant?
Yeah, I think it's quite a safe herb. I don't think there's any glaringly obvious contraindications for me. I mean, I think with rose and I suppose when you're working from an emotional or energetic perspective, there are plants that you can maybe not quite get it right, or you not quite make the right choice for that person. And that I think is quite a nuanced and quite it takes a lot of practice to kind of get it right, and we don't always get it right first time. But I wouldn't say in terms of the safety that there's any issues around giving it a try. No, I can't think of anything that would be of harm.
And maybe if the audience, because they're growing so much in Germany also, if they want to like try something with rose hips themselves, what would you recommend like as an easiest thing to do? And if they do a tincture, for example, would you pull out the seeds always? Do you use the full rose hip? How do you do that?
That's a really good question, actually. Yeah, because I think sometimes when you get stuck into things that are quite hard work or a bit tricky and fiddly, then it can be a bit overwhelming and put people off. So I would say that anything involving infusing the rose hip is probably the easiest place to start. So whether that, because you can keep the hip whole, you don't have to cut it at all. You can just pick your rose hips. And I should also mention that there are many different varieties. All rose hips are edible and usable. Put them into a jar once you've picked them, and then cover them with whatever it is you want to extract into. So whether that's apple cider vinegar, or if you're making a tincture, you can use vodka or some kind of spirit alcohol, so vinegars, alcohol, or if you want, you could make like a liqueur if you're getting more into the foraging for pleasure rather than medicine side of things. Then a brandy or something like that you could infuse them into. That's probably the most straightforward, because you're literally just putting them in a jar, covering it with whatever liquid of choice, and then straining them out after 3 or 4 weeks.
How's our time going? Should we?
We have like 2 minutes, I think.
So maybe we'll round it up slowly. Do you have anything about Rosehips or your work, or even something super random that you would like to share with our audience?
Super random. There is, like, I suppose one thing to mention maybe that's is a bit random. There's a lot of kind of rituals, I suppose, with, because it's such a powerful, energetic symbol. The rose does have a lot of kind of ritual and magic surrounding it. So, in Scotland, the hips used to be carried in people's pockets because they thought it would help to relieve pain. And there was also a tradition of hanging a charmed rose briar above the bed of a person with a broken bone would help it to heal. So those are some like old kind of random Scottish traditions that people used to kind of do to with the rose plant. And of course, love potions and kettle waters. And actually, it was one of the first actual herbal medicines that I made. I have this memory of being in my friend's garden as a child, and we were just picking rose petals and shoving them into jam jars with water in them, and then putting them on the windowsill to make perfume. And I didn't know at the time, obviously, that we were actually making herbal medicine. We were making rose water.
Yeah, maybe in a future episode you can tell us more about these love potions. I think everybody would be interested in that.
So you brought a song with you. As our audience knows, we always like to have our interviewer bring our favorite song. Would you like to? What do we say? Would you like to
announce it?
Announce the song for us?
Sure. Yeah. So I've chosen Rosehip November by Vashti Bunyan. And obviously it mentions rosehips in the title. But I also I love kind of folk music in general. And I think this song is about kind of moving from one part of life to another, like leaving behind childhood innocence and moving into a different phase of life. And I quite like that for the rose, because it does it really supports women especially, and it has that kind of phase of supporting women through all the ages, I feel. So I was drawn to playing with rose as a child. We find it in courtship rituals and love ceremonies, wedding bouquets, and it's used for birthing mothers. It's used during the menopause, and we talk about old roses and the rose as an elder plant. So I think it's a really appropriate song for the rose plant.
Thank you, Claire, for that wonderful interview and the lovely song. Just a little shout out with her book. You can find that on her website under shop. It's a great book. I highly recommend it. I own it myself in my own library. And she does also beautiful retreats in Scotland. You can find them on the Heal Scotland website, which we will put in the links in the show notes, so that you can find them easily.
Mm-hmm. Now we're moving on to recipe time. It's recipe time again, the favorite time of the month. And today I'm bringing you a beautiful recipe from my home region, Franconia, where I am from originally. It's a very traditional thing that making this thing called hiffenmark, which is basically just rosehip jam. And the recipe is quite simple. You just take half a kilo of freshly collected rosehips. You clean them, of course, put them in a pot, put it on the stove, add water. So there's like 1 centimeter of water above the rosehips. And maybe the rose bum is sticking out a little bit. You don't need to open them before. You just cook them up until they're opening themselves. Once they open, you can smish them a little bit. You add honey from your local honey guy. around like 300 grams. So it's quite sweet. You want it to be sweet. It's amazing when it's sweet, and you don't need this classic jam, chili,
Jelly sugar.
jelly sugar, because the rose hips
Heaps of pectin in it.
yes, and they're just holding it together. You filter it through a sieve and put it in the prepared glasses that you use for jam. And that's just it. And you can put it on anything that you want, and you should, because it's effing amazing. It does taste amazing, and it's super healthy, except the whole bunch of sugar part, maybe.
Well, it's honey, a little bit of sugar. It's okay.
Yeah, it makes the medicine go down.
That's right. Yum, yum. You'll find that recipe we'll post that on our Instagram, Herbie at Heart.
You find it Herbie at Heart. You find Touch at Avant-Garden Life, me at Power Plants Berlin. Do you have any invitation for this month?
Yes, I do have 2 invitations quickly. I'm doing an event about Imbolc, which is a celebration, bringing the new year in, new intentions.
Right.
And also in Feb on the 22nd, I'm doing a women's talk with herbs and homeopathy. So come on, check our sites, both of us. And
that's amazing, yeah.
if you want to also need any help with your health.
Yeah, if you have any health issues going on and you need support, you can always contact us. You can contact us through Instagram. You can phone us up. You find our information on our websites, on Instagram. You can visit us at our Praxis in Mommsenstraße in Charlottenburg. We are Herbie at Heart. This was Tash and Phil. Thank you for listening this month.
Herbie at Heart, Herbie by nature.